皆様こんにちは。本日はベーカーマッケンジーのアジアフォーカスニュースレターのトピックとして、インドネシア個人情報保護法についてお話しさせていただきます。東京オフィスのパートナー、勝山正雄と申します。アジアフォーカスニュースレターでは、ベーカーマッケンジーのネットワークを最大限に活かし、日本企業の関心が高いと思われるアジア地域でのリーガルニュースをタイムリーにお届けしております。今回はインドネシアで新たに制定された個人情報保護法、パーソナルデータプロテクションローの概要について、ジャカルタオフィスのチームに話を伺います。東京オフィスの勝山、折原康貴、松丸知津、ジャカルタオフィスのDaniel、Pardede、Adhika、Wiyoso、Bimo、Harimahesa、Wiku、Aninditoとにてお送りいたします。個人情報保護法によりデータプライバシーに関する包括的な規制が導入されました。これまでインドネシアには個人情報保護に関する包括的な法令がなかったことから、同法の制定はインドネシアにおける個人情報保護の分野に大きなインパクトを持つことと思われます。この法令の主な内容について教えてください。Adhika, over to you.
This personal data protections in Indonesia, or what we call a PDP law, it's the first extensive regulation in Indonesia when it comes to data privacy practice. It introduced some of the concept that is currently being implemented in the EU through the GDPR. So basically, there are concepts like the categorization of general and specific personal data. There is a concept of data controller and data processor. There's also a new requirements on foreign offshore data, personal data transfer to outside of Indonesia, and also there are also some other rights and obligations that needs to be fulfilled by data controllers and data processors in processing personal data in Indonesia. Lastly, this PDP law also introduced the concept of data protection officer and data protection authority that will be available in Indonesia. Thank you.
それでは次に折原より伺います。個人情報保護法は包括的な規制であり、個人情報保護に関する一般的なルールを定めており、実際の適用にあたってはルールの内容を明確する規則等が必要になると理解しております。現時点で、こういった施行規則等についていつ頃公表される想定でしょうか。Adhika, over to you.
So basically, the PDP law it gives a transitional period of 2 years. So even though the regulation itself is effective when it is enacted back in October, but because of this 2-year transitional period, the enforcement and the implementation of the regulation will not be done immediately. So this 2-year transitional period will be used for all parties, the data controller and data processor in Indonesia, in order to familiarize themselves with the requirements and also to adjust their personal data practice in order to be compliant and in line with the PDP law. Now, on the other hand, this 2-year transitional period will also be used by the Indonesian government to prepare the implementation of the regulation. Now, this preparation includes the drafting and the issuance of the implementing regulations. I think there are around 9 or 10 implementing regulations that are mandated by the regulation. And also the government will need to establish and stipulate the authority that will be the data protection authority as referred in the regulation. Thank you.
個人情報保護法の違反に対しては、課徴金など企業に対する行政罰や刑罰も定められています。施行にあたって日本企業はどのような対策を進める必要があるでしょうか。Over to you, Bimo.
There are three main items that should be considered by the business actors after the enactment of the PDP law. First is to watch out the implementing regulations of the PDP law that will be issued by the government. Any kind of implementing regulation in relation to the data protection officer, data protection impact assessment, including the establishment of the data protection authority. The second one is to rely, at the time being, to rely on the express valid consent when utilizing the lawful basis of processing personal data. Until further implementing regulation can be issued, perhaps the other lawful basis of personal data should be subject to the implementing regulations in the future. The third one would be the data breach notification, which is now shortened. Previously, it needs to be sent to the data subject within 14 days after the data breach incident occurs. Now it is shortened into 3 days only, which should be delivered not to only the data subject, but also to the data protection authority that will be established in the future.
今お話しいただいた措置に加えて、データプロテクションオフィサーの指名について、日本企業において特に必要となる措置があれば教えてください。Over to you, Wiku.
Under the PDP law, data controllers and processors that process personal data for the purpose of public service are those that have core activities that require systematic and orderly monitoring of large-scale data processing, and those that process specific personal data or criminal records must appoint a DPO. The DPO will carry out tasks to advise on privacy requirements and compliance, advise on the data protection impact assessment, and act as the data privacy liaison officer of the controller or processor. The PDP law indicates that further provisions on DPO aspects, including a certification requirement, will be set out in the government regulation. There are also several points that remain unclear at the moment. For example, what is considered as a large-scale data processing, and whether a data protection officer must reside in Indonesia. Hopefully, these unclear points can also be addressed in the upcoming government regulation.
日本企業がこれらのデータプライバシーに関する新たな規制に対応するために、我々としてどのようなサポートをすることができますか？ Over to you, Daniel.
So how can we support you? HHP has been one of Indonesia's largest corporate firms. We've been in Jakarta or established in Jakarta since 1989, and we have been supporting many clients, both local and international, on various complex transactions and complex legal issues. We have also been following the progress of the personal data protection regulations in Indonesia since it was discussed or initiated by the Indonesian government, and we've been following the discussions with the parliament and until it is issued just recently. It has been a long road, but it is just the beginning of how Indonesia is taking more focus in protecting personal data for its people and in the use of personal data in business. So in general, we will be able to support you in how you can adjust your policies to these new regulations, both the new regulation that's going to be issued and the current regulation that is being enacted. Of course, together with our colleagues in Tokyo, we will be able to assist you bridge compliance that you need to fulfill both in Japan, in Indonesia, or within the region where we have offices that can support you. So we hope that this information is useful. Please feel free to reach out to our colleagues in Tokyo or us in Jakarta and see how we can help you in order for you to understand better our new data protection regulation. Thank you.
アジアニュースフォーカスレターでは今後も日本企業の関心が高いと思われるアジア地域でのリーガルニュースを定期的に発信させていただきます。どうぞよろしくお願いいたします。